it with all your heart. Commit thy works unto the Lord. There's no profit in hard work. So Claire, what's common with these three verses? Yes, please unmute your microphone, though you have chatted your answer. Yes, Claire. Cannot hear you. Your mic is not working, Claire. Ah, okay. Sige, Preda. Save a friend.
Sir, ano po, about po sa hardworking or hardworking tao.
Okay. All of the verses teach us how to become hardworking. Okay. All of the verses do pertains working. As we all know, work is something that we do to earn for a living. But the Bible verses here tells us not to just work for money, but focus our efforts in serving the Lord, because we must not work for people but for the Lord. And at the same time, in this slide, in this verse, profit can be attained by working hard, not by talking too much. Diba? Less talk, more work is better. Okay? So what's the reason behind the simple question? What's common with the verses? Actually, the word work is different scientifically. Okay, it's different. Okay, so our lesson for today, we will deal about work, and we will try to hit the following objectives. Definition of work, how do we define work? We'll try to connect work with force and the distance traveled. And lastly, you must have calculated work correctly. Okay, these are our targets. To hit the first target, let us first have these two illustrations. Focus your attention on these two pictures. A while ago, I was asking about commonality. What's common? What's the same with the verses? Now, let's have the other pole. How is illustration A different with illustration B? What's different with picture A with picture B? Yeah. How will you compare picture A with picture B? May I have your idea? I want to hear your voice. Kritska? Do you see differences between picture A and picture B?
Yes po, sir.
Yeah, what's in your mind?
Sir, yung object po sa picture B, kaya
Mhm.
pong ma-move.
Yeah. While in A?
Hindi po.
Okay. She referred to the cabinet being pushed horizontally by that person. Unlike the wall in picture A, no movement at all. Okay? Just wanted to read. Thank you, Kriska, for your idea. Just wanted to read the chats. Na-move yung object, sir, sa B. Letter, sir, mas mabigat yung pinupush ng nasa illustration B. Yes, that's a difference. Nagtutulak po, sir, pero different weight yung natutulak. Mataba po. Mataba po yung isa. Yung isa maraming muscle, may muscle. Moving the wall is more impossible than moving the heavy box. Okay. From one of your classmates as well. Picture A po, the object can't be moved, pero B can be moved po. Force is applied. Okay. Thank you for your participation. Actually, one of your classmates or two of your classmates hit the significant difference between the two pictures. For A, though great amount of force was exerted by the prisoner, the wall did not move at all. Mas pawisan na nga eh. However, on B, the employee pushed the cabinet horizontally and it displays from point A to point B. Okay, that's the difference between these two illustrations. Now, this difference actually tells us about work. This difference means something about how we describe, quote unquote, work in physics. Without Googling, how do we define or describe work? Without Googling. Just base your definition on the answers given by your classmates, your own observation, my discussion, my simple discussion about these two pictures, you can define work already. Okay, Neymar, I understand.
Sir,
Yes, thank you, Clarence.
exerting effort or ano po, force.
Exerting effort and force, that's one. Thank you. Clarence, what else? Similar with case answer in the chat box. Sir, you put effort. What else? How do we describe work based on these illustrations, based from your answers a while ago? Mentioned effort and force. That's correct. Yes, Tyrell.
Sir, nag-put po ng effort dun po sa object para po pumayo.
Exerting effort for the object to move. That's her idea. One answer here in the chat box. One puts or uses force in order to move an object. Force exerted upon something. Force and movement. Okay? Generally, all your answers are correct and valid because this is how we scientifically define work. Work is defined as a force acting upon an object to cause a displacement, which is very true with our simple identifying what's the difference between picture A and picture B. Yes, both of them exerted force. However, in illustration B, the cabinet displaced from point E to point B. Unlike the person in picture A, though he exerted an enormous amount of force to no avail, the wall did not move. Which means to say, for work to be displayed or presence of work, there should always be change in position or displacement or distance covered. Yes, there is force, but if there's no change in position, there's no distance covered by the object, there's no displacement, there's no such thing as work done. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear with work concept. Okay? Should I proceed? Okay. Let's have okay. I failed to erase, but actually these two lines going to the right will tell us more about work and force being parallel with each other. If we have here a cart and it's pushed by a 1,000 Newton force, the same direction as the force, there's work. I repeat, force and displacement should be of the same direction. Otherwise, there's no work. Okay? What particular scenario am I talking about wherein work is absent? Imagine you're holding a plate on your hand. Okay, you're standing. Then you walk. You walked. Now, relative to the ground, did you perform work? I repeat the scenario. You're holding a plate with a menu. Then you walked. Relative to the ground, did you perform work? Yes or no? Is the force of exertion parallel with the distance or displacement covered? Come on. Anyone would like to answer the question? Holding a plate, you walk relative to the ground. Did you perform work? May I hear from Mr. Albero? Did the person holding the plate perform work?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, your answer is yes. Okay. How about you, Freda? Did the person perform work relative to the ground?
I think yes din po.
Yes, then. Last, may I hear the voice of Luis? Did the person holding the plate and walked perform
Yes
work?
po.
Yes. Okay. Let's analyze. This is the relative to the ground, ano? For a while. For a while. Okay, let's analyze the direction of the force and the displacement covered. The person, wow, person. Yan. Holding a plate. Walked. Of course, horizontal yung movement. Now, relative to the ground. This is the floor or the ground. Did he perform work? Saan ba yung direction ng force? Dito, di ba? I'm sorry for that. Okay? Dito siya lumakad. Yung displacement, on what direction? You thought dito din, di ba? Ito din yan. But I mentioned several times relative to the ground. Relative to the ground or referring to the floor. Sabihin na, relative to the ground. Did it perform work? Ito yung direction ng displacement. Pero relative to the ground, this is the plate. Nag-change ba ng displacement or movement yung plato habang lumalakad ka? Hindi. Okay? So, hindi parallel yung force of exertion and yung displacement. Wala ngang displacement eh. Diba? As the person walk along horizontally, iniaangat ba niya yung plato hanggang ulo niya, hanggang lampas habang lumalakad? Hindi naman. Okay? So in this case, the force and the displacement, they are not parallel with each other. Perpendicular pa nga yan eh. Okay? So in this scenario, work is absent. Okay? So, titingnan nyo yung mga, papakinggan nyo yung mabuti yung mga additional information regarding the situation relative to the ground. Based from the ground. Siyempre, gumalaw ba yung, nagkaroon ba ng displacement yung plato? Wala naman. Okay? There's no work on that scenario since force is not parallel with the distance covered. Okay? I'll erase this part now. Let's continue. Another definition of work is the product of force exerted and the distance covered. As simple as that. Force is equivalent to the force of exertion and the distance covered. Okay? Now, how do we express work, or what's the unit for work? It's expressed in terms of joules or joule. Some schools, UP and Letran, I know they say the unit joule. Parang hindi kayo mabigla sa college. Joule. Though majority of the schools, they mention that Joules, joules. Okay? That unit came from force expressed in newtons and distance expressed in meters. Okay? Below here is the extracted unit for a joule. Since 1 joule is equivalent to 1 Newton meter, the product of force and distance, we can also express a joule by using kilogram meter square per second square. How do we came up with that unit? Remember, a Newton is equivalent to kilogram meter per second squared. Yes, this is the unit for Newton. If we will multiply it with a unit for distance, di ba? Kilogram meter per second squared multiplied by a meter, the result will be a kilogram meter squared per second squared. Na-multiply na yung m outside with the meter unit inside. Okay, so a Newton meter, a joule is equivalent to 1 kilogram meter square per second square. Okay, so this is in addition to our previous definition of work. It's not just exertion of force causing distance or displacement. It is also described as force should be parallel with the distance covered. And we mathematically define work as a product of force and its distance covered. Okay? Question so far? Do we have something to verify, clarify? Pareak po. Do we have questions? Wala naman? Okay. So next slide, apply this equation and answer the following. Answer the following, A, B, C, D, and F. For letter A, how much work is done? For letter B, how much work is done as well? This is 6.5. 6.5 times 10 to the third Newton. Then for letter D, that exponent is raised to the negative 3. Then the distance here, do not mind this. This is not part of the given. F is unknown. Okay? So I'll be giving you 5 minutes. Oh, shit, 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes. Our equation is very simple. Remember, work is the product of force and distance covered. Very simple compared with all the equations that you have experienced under the class. Okay? So I'll be giving you 5 minutes.